morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. I thank you for giving me this an opportunity. I am presenting my thoughts on an issue which has intrigued me, and I'm collecting evidence for it because I felt that it is something which has repeatedly come into the discussions, and it needs to be understood that what does scientific community think about it. So it is retaining preventive actions and sustainable health behaviors post COVID-19 challenges and opportunities of health communication. Can we have next slide, please? So it is it's a paper which I'm writing, and it's a work in progress, and I seek your suggestions on this thing. So the rationale with which I've started is that we all know that there is absence of any vaccine and treatment. We have nothing now, as of now, for COVID-19. So the solution lies to behavior change. The contagious nature of the disease has mandated behavior change. Otherwise, our survival and safety would be in jeopardy. Now, the way the disease has, the outbreak of the disease happened, we saw influx of communication through which attempts were made to inform community of the preventive behaviors. And the preventive behaviors, we all know, focus primarily on hand hygiene, respiratory etiquette, and social distancing. These all were measures to make people adopt a few promoted preventive behaviors, but we know that some of these behaviors like hand hygiene, which had been promoted for so long, they had not been very successful in the past. So there are few behaviors which are new, which have been promoted for the first time, and there are behaviors which have been promoted for long. Can we have next slide, please? Yeah. So the research question is that would the preventive behaviors which have been promoted to combat the pandemic sustain post-COVID? And what are the challenges and opportunities that can be anticipated in sustaining these preventive behaviors? And third is, which behavior change theories will hold promise in designing health communication strategies post-COVID-19? I'm using this word post-COVID-19. It could be also maybe in the later half of COVID-19. The paper is primarily based on the review of the papers, literature which has been collected. So I focus on behavior change during normal and pandemic times, behavior change communication strategies during epidemic and pandemic, risk communication and behavior change theories. I have also reviewed some communication videos which were aired during the first phase of lockdown to know as to what has been done with respect to behavior change in those communication messages. Now, can we have, yeah. So now I just would want to quickly inform about the emergency risk communication, which through which we were given these all messages. Now, it has to be very very important to understand that the purpose of emergency risk communication is very different from the purpose of routine health communication. So the things which we expect from a emergency risk communication should not be expected what we expect from a health communication, because in emergency risk communication we are trying to give facts and update to the people. We want them to get into action. We want to clarify the event status. We want to say what is the status, what has happened, how many cases, what is the risk. We want to address rumors, and we want to satisfy media requests. So that is the focus of emergency risk communication. Now, and I've just also kept this. Yes, can we have this next slide, please? Yes, Sitendra, thank you. So this is a little difficult picture, I would say. So I've tried to divide into two parts, but this picture is actually. Can we have the next slide, please? But this picture is actually not very important. It is important in the sense to understand that if you go through the entire process of emergency risk communication, you'll find that the focus is just on giving the situational awareness to the people, collecting the information, giving the information in a transparent way, timely way, and giving them the messages which are doable, which are action-based. So can we have the next slide, please? So the entire process is focusing on collecting the information, having the scientific evidence, and then communicating this information to the people with the actions expected out of them. Yes, the next slide, please. So it is all on this only. Now, because of this reason, when we reviewed these 37 videos which were on communication messages, which came as a part of emergency risk communication, we found that none of the videos actually took into account any of the components of behavior change theory or risk into account. It was simply informing and educating, because that is the purpose of emergency risk communication. Now, when we are saying the purpose of emergency risk communication is this, can we actually say that the behavior which we are expecting, the behavior change which we are expecting out of this emergency risk communication, are we correct in expecting that? Yes, can we have the next slide, please? So here, so what is behavior? Behavior is anything which a person does in response to any internal or external stimulus. It could be measurable, it could be covert, it could be overt. All these things which can be observed, they are the behaviors and might not be observed as well. The emergency risk communication, the preventive behavior which we have seen, like we all would probably agree that most people were doing this behavior, though there were some deviations, and that's the reason we are facing this issue. But most people are doing this behavior. Now, the preventive behavior which was exhibited is not behavior change per se, but it can simply be seen as health behavior, which was a mere action resulting out of perceived immediate risk, compulsion, or enforcement as any emergency risk communication outcome. So it is not a behavior change. Like I would say that we have no other option. We have no other choice. That's the reason we were compelled to do this behavior. I mean, on the lighter side, I would say that as in Sholay movie, Gabbar Singh is saying that you have to dance, otherwise Veeru is on my gunshot. So anyone would be actually doing that only because we know that we have no other choice. So it was a behavior which was thrust upon us, and we are doing it. But seeing it as a change, that is something which bothers me, and that's what I'm trying to find answers to it. That it is a behavior, but it is not a behavior change. Now, what were the key expected behavior? Can we have the next slide, please? So the key expected behaviors: hand hygiene, respiratory etiquette, and social distancing. Now, some of these behaviors are behaviors which we already know, like hand hygiene, and has been promoted. Respiratory etiquette is also something which is being promoted, but not to the level where we can say that community would understand, most people would understand. And social distancing is actually not a something which is an alien concept. It's not something which we were aware of prior to this pandemic. Can we? Yes, the next slide. Now, if you just see the hand hygiene, now trying to understand the difference between the routine communication, health communication, and the communication which has happened for this COVID. So COVID is also saying wash your hands. Now, when it is saying wash your hands, it is saying very clearly, specifically, in specific terms, what you have to do, how many for how many seconds you have to wash your hands, and when you have this is being told as a part of this emergency risk communication. As a part of health communication, as you can see in the slide, that we have been focusing on this health communication for behavior change for hand hygiene from many years. But still, if the latest report which I got from NSSO is 2018, that 35% of the people only wash hands with soap before meal, and 26% of the people do not wash hands with soap after defecation. Now, that is a situation when we had programs for total sanitation campaign starting in 1919, Nirmal Bharat Abhiyan starting in 2012, and then the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan from 2014 onwards. So what I'm trying to say is that this is all health communication, and every program had some budget going into BCC and ICC activities, BCC and IC activities, and still we have not been able to do. This is the status. Now, with this emergency risk communication, what we are expecting is that a change should happen. My only submission is that it is not a change, it is a behavior. Now, so because behavior is determined by a wide range of factors, your knowledge about the benefits and practice of proper hand hygiene would not necessarily translate into uptake. And even if you are able to, if you initiate it, it might not remain with you. So to translate into population health, behaviors must be maintained over the long run. Factors influencing maintenance may differ from those influencing initiation of change. That is the difference. So what I'm trying to convey is that we are very through ERC we have been able to inform people, we have been able to educate people, and we have also been able to push people to initiate the action. But it is not something which we can say will stay with them or they're going to do it. So we have to distinguish between behavior which is in the routine times and behavior during risk. Yeah, next slide, please. Now, there has been, like for the routine communication, there have been many studies on behavior change. And if I focus only on the hand hygiene, there have been studies which found that hand washing with soap for family members, and it has been found that the intervention effect was mediated by response efficacy, disgust, convenience, and awareness. Next slide, please. Another study focused on the emotional drivers like nurture, disgust, affiliation, and social status. So these are the factors which actually play a role whether you will be following an hand hygiene or you will not follow hand hygiene. And these are to be taken into account if you are trying to change the behavior. Now just see this next slide. Yeah, the slide here. This is Sandman's risk perception. Now it has been divided into 4 parts. That what is the seriousness of the risk perceived by the in a technical sense and perceived in a non-technical sense. So high hazard and high outreach. Now the point is people has to be thinking. People now as a part of ERC, people should see COVID-19 as something which is dangerous, and they should see it as a high hazard, and there should be a high outreach. Now I'll see very beautifully, we'll see that the way ERC has been conducted for COVID, you'll find and we could not find in none of the 37 videos which we reviewed, the risk was not there. It was just informing and educating people. Now informing and educating people was there, but still people could understand the severity of the problem. Why? Because there was a shutdown and lockdown, and people knew that there is something so big, something so dangerous. So that was a very, because ERC says that you should alarm people, but people should be calm, people should not panic. Otherwise, the purpose of the ERC, emergency risk communication, fails. So this was very beautiful. So I would say that, so this is the risk perception. Now, as you see in this slide, when we are trying to see the link between the ERC, the behaviors which are being promoted as part of emergency risk communication, the behavior which we want them to be pursued in a routine communication, we have to understand that of these behaviors which are being promoted, there are certain behaviors where we want them to be initiated, there are certain behaviors we want them to be maintained, and there are certain behaviors where we want them to convert into automated behavior. Like initiation, because we want that people should initiate this social distancing. Maintaining the behavior, maybe maintaining the respiratory etiquette, and automated behavior is something hand hygiene. For maintaining the behavior, you have to actually give the reinforcers. For automated behavior, it happens, it goes into your habit. You don't have to be, nobody has to remind to it. Like if I simply say that when we get into the habit of saying excuse me and sorry, so even when you are bumping into some table or chair, instantly you say that I'm sorry. So that is the automated behavior. So you have to see that what is the purpose of the behavior change which you are expecting from these 3 behaviors. Now let's go to this next slide. I've just tried to, one way I've tried to present that whenever we are trying to promote behavior, we have to see that what are the perceived costs and perceived benefits which are being seen by the people. People actually see, whenever you tell them to change their behavior, they try to measure in terms of cost and benefit. Yeah, can we have the next slide, please? Yeah, hold on. Now just hold on, please. Okay, so now if you see the hand washing is prior to COVID-19, it was a perceived low cost, perceived low benefit. So it was a behavior where there was no cost was perceived, and there was benefit was also not perceived, that what it would actually benefit. It would not benefit so it much way. And probably you would maybe agree with me that though many of us actually get unhappy with WhatsApp messages, but one WhatsApp message you might have received that we are people of that times when जब हम कुछ भी खा लेते थे, कुछ भी पी लेते थे, लेकिन हम बीमार नहीं पड़ते थे. So that nostalgia, that longing towards that behavior is also something which makes you cling to that behavior. So there's a perceived low cost and perceived low benefit. Now, with this ERC, emergency risk communication after COVID-19, what has happened? This perceived low cost has become perceived low cost, perceived high benefit. That has happened. That has changed the shift. Because, yes, please. Because there is a high threat due to shutdown and yes, please. Yes, next. And there's information on preventive measures, and we know that the only way the preventive measure is to wash hands. Yes, yes. So now what we have to now with this kind of a scenario where, so we have to just inform and educate people, because we have already instilled the fear in them. We have already told them this is the only option left with you. But so maximum people now, so we find that maximum, though I don't have data for it, and maybe when things will normalize, then maybe we would like to collect data on what people thought of all those communication. But we understand that people are following it, but we also know that all people are not following it, and all should be following it, and they should be following it without a miss. Yes, next slide, please. Now, why they are not following without, now why everybody is not following, and why they are missing, and why they are not regular religiously doing, because we have to understand that people are different, and there are different pressures, different barriers which are being faced by them. Like, for example, one of the barrier could be water availability and scarcity. So you do not have water, you do not, water is not available. So what do you, so maybe at some of the places we have seen, if the water is not available, then promote an option of sanitizer. Fine, that's good. Now, next slide, please. Now, when we say sanitizer, what has happened is this perceived low cost, perceived low benefit has converted into perceived high cost, perceived high benefit, because now a cost has been attached. So you are using the sanitizer. You are now, and let me please clarify. When I use this word cost, it is just not cost in terms of financial, it is a psychological cost as well. So there are many, so all these things are to be taken into account when you are trying to change behavior. Now there are other behaviors which are like sanitizing your surrounding, avoid surface contamination, respiratory etiquette, social distancing, care seeking adherence. You have to seek, you don't have to hide, you have to be receptive, and you have to be like seeing that there are symptoms. Now, what you have to understand is that are you seeking a temporary change, or are you seeking a permanent change? Because that will help you to decide what should be your communication strategies. If you want the behaviors which has been initiated during ERC, if you even want to convert into routine behaviors, whether they should be, whether you are want a temporary or a permanent change. Yes, please, next. Now, the one would be that we want to kill two birds with one stone. So this is because we are, because now see it as an opportunity that what ERC has done is that ERC has actually given that enough of threat to the people, that and enough of have been able to communicate the benefit of hand washing. But no, please give it the next slide. But we also need to understand that people behave differently when there is no solution and treatment, and when the solution is. There are studies on the syphilis behavior, and the most important study is HIV/AIDS. Since we do not have anything for HIV/AIDS, the safe behavior actually got promoted. So point is that this people will wash hands till the threat is there. When there is something, maybe people might not be so threatened, and people might not be driven to wash hands. So we have to catch on this opportunity, that since people know that it is important to wash hands, and we know that it is important to wash hands not only just for COVID, but for diarrhea and for so many other issues for which hand hygiene is so important. Now this is a time, this is an opportunity to actually promote that hand washing not only saves you from COVID-19, it saves you and your children from so many other things. Yes, please, next. So for the respiratory etiquette, like coughing or sneezing in the arm or wearing of mask, now we all know that this is something which is not very difficult, but since everybody is not doing it, it becomes something people will hesitate to do it. People will not be very open to doing it, and so most people would not follow, and most people, there would be no pressure to follow it. Next slide, please. Similarly, as I told you, the social distancing is the alien concept, and is a concept, not only the terminology is a misnomer, but also it is opposed to our physical, social, and psychological setup. Many a time, social distancing is not even possible the way we are and the important thing is, we also need to understand that the behavior which we are expecting people to do, they also run the risk of being seen as stigma. Now, if somebody comes and sit very next to me, and as out of my concern for social distancing, if I leave my seat and take another seat, that this behavior of following the social distancing might be seen as a stigma by other person. So what I'm saying is we need to be actually understanding that these things are there. Yes, next slide, please. So the point is that hand hygiene is an individual behavior. It has to be promoted in that way. But for these other behaviors, it is very important that the change is to be targeted at the societal level. I will be able to follow social distancing if the society is appreciates that, and the society overall, everybody start realizing it's important. So we have to focus on a normative approach. For normative approach, again, the legal sanction is not is already there, because it's the time when many of the, if you're not wearing mask, you can be penalized, all these things there. But there should be a social sanction also. People should appreciate and people should be okay with it. Not everything is done personally against anyone. That message should be there. And I would really appreciate the way the phone messages have been designed. They very clearly tell that you don't have to be bimar se nahi, you have to be careful of the bimari. So that's something. Now, if you see that what kind of behavior change theories can be taken into account, I would just say that the health belief model is actually not required because the threat is already there. But since we want to make change at the societal level, the attitude becomes very important. So maybe theory of reasoned action and theory of planned behavior will be very important if we want to change behavior of the people. Extended parallel process model is a very important theory given by Vitti, and it combines theory, reasoned action, and health belief model, and it is something very nice. The biggest asset of this theory is that it tells that what do people do whenever they are threatened. Now, this theory says that when we are threatened, we should try to control. We should not try to control the fear, but we should try to control the danger. Now, if you do not, now what happens is that when we have threatened people enough, if we do not give them the enough ways to protect themselves, the efficacy is not given to them, then what will happen? They will try to control the fear. That is, will say, "Arey kuch nahi hota, nahi hoga, jo hoga so dekha jayega." That is not a good or positive or a behavior which we can promote. But if we say that try to control the danger, that is where this mask or do follow social distancing. So this is something very important. So this, in my opinion, this model is very important, and this can and the messages can be actually viewed in by taking into account this model. Social cognitive theory is very important. Social theory because when we are trying to make it normative, we have to see that how behavior can be made normative, how people, the role models can endorse this, role models can promote this behavior. Can we next slide, please? So there has been a study by UCL Institute of Cognitive Neurosciences. It is for adolescents that social media influences encourage adolescents to follow social distancing guidelines. I believe it is for everyone. Many of the things which come to us, even when they seem silly and humorous, they actually do something on our psyche and push us to change our behavior. So maybe the TikTok videos, WhatsApp messages, I see they also add value. Maybe the value sometimes and many a times is actually not value, but they still have some value. So we have to understand that people look to other people to understand social norms, and they align their behavior with the group they want to belong to. And that's the reason that we have to actually use those role models who can educate people, who can inform people. Yes. There is a role of policy and regulation also, and we also routine communication also. We seek support of policy and regulations to change behaviors when they are very difficult to change. Now is a time when the policy and regulation is already in our support. So we have to use it to push the desired behavior. But at the same time, we have to understand that the behavior change is something which happens at the level of the individual. It should not be pushed. It should not be imposed. It should not be enforced. It should be a decision taken by the person, because then if it is internalized, then there are chances of it being followed even when nobody is observing. So behavior is that which you do when nobody is observing. So the shift of ownership from state to people should happen. So it should be the health communication strategy should be designed in such a way that this shift can happen easily. Yes, please next. So in this time, I would say that if we have to start this health communication strategies, we have to understand there's a restriction to face-to-face intervention, which was actually the most lauded, applauded intervention strategy of changing the communication. Now, because of these restrictions, social media, mobile would be most effective. The only thing is we have to take into account that the reach is ensured. Uh, and having said that, I'll still say that since mobile, the reach of mobile is there, and we do not have other options, this probably holds the best chance for getting success. I think. Thank you. Thank you so much.